Hi, this is Wendy with Next Level Board Games, and today we're going to unbox Mystic Vale, a game by John D. Clare and published by AEG Games. And this is a game that has been around for a few years, but it's new to me, and it actually has like a ton of expansions. When I went looking, I was like really surprised. There's just expansion after expansion after expansion. So pretty much no matter what you're into, you're going to be able to find an expansion that fits, what you're into. Okay, first, I think this is a little bit about what to do with your advancement cards. Okay. We'll figure that out later. And then the instructions, which are not too long. Lots of examples. It's, like 20 pages, but this is actually not, I played this once, and it's actually not that hard to pick up. And this is nice, a little quick reference on the back. Those are always really nice because then you can set the book aside instead of, doing this and setting it somewhere and then eventually the book sort of falls apart. So appreciate that. These are going to be victory points, VP tokens. I love the little shape of these. They're like, they remind me of like acorns, really. And then there's the fives are bigger. So like the fives are worth 5, obviously. The singles are worth, these are worth 1. But they're kind of the shape of acorns. Are unique. They're cute. And then these are going to be how you determine your starting players. So you just make sure everybody gets one of these, and you have to make sure somebody at least is randomized in that group. So like if you only have 3, you would take these 3, and that determines the starting player. So we'll pop those out later. Here's all the card sleeves. So those are going to go on. Let's see, I think these. Uh-oh, this is torn a little bit. Oh, that's too bad. We'll have to bend that back. Well, we'll live. So here is some of the starting cards, like the player cards. So the cursed land, you start with those, and that's a big part of when you're counting. You have to have so many of those in your hand because those give you negative values with the red trees, and then the more negative values you have, you can basically blow up. So it's a little bit of pressure luck when you're flipping cards. You don't know what's coming, but you're trying to build the biggest hand you can because you get to use these symbols to buy things at the end, better cards, make better cards, and then eventually you'll get other symbols from those. I'll see if I get to those. Oh, here we go. Perfect. These green symbols are going to help you buy the Vale cards, which are also worth more VPs. So you can kind of see them here. So the red trees is going to be negative value. The green trees sort of negate that. And then these are what you use to buy better cards at the end. And then these symbols, the spirits, let you buy some of the Vale cards, which is really nice because those are where you get more VPs. Nice box insert. You like that? Let's see. Let's take the plastic off this. So these cards are sort of a unique, wow, there we go. A unique, they're clear, so they're very different feel than like the standard like deck of cards, right? So much plastic. So these are real slick. They're almost like little like cover sheets that you would slide paper into to protect, right? So these are going to be out, and you'll have so many of different types to choose from. These are level 1s. It's really hard to see that, but there's a little dot right there. And that means it's a level 1. Here's a level 3. If you can see, there's 3 little dots there. So these are going to get set into different stacks. It kind of reminds me of Splendor a little bit. And then you can purchase these. Then you end up adding these. Here's a good example. To these cards in your hand, you'll slide them in, and those will be in these sleeves eventually so that they stay. And then when you flip over that card, you'll have different abilities. You'll get to stack whatever all the abilities are in that card at that point. So you start out with really basic cards. You start out with very basic cards, and you'll have a bunch that you'll see that are just completely blank. But the reason for that is because you're going to build with these other cards. So like, in fact, here's 3. This is 3 different cards, but each with an item in a different spot. And technically you could stack the ones that have these special abilities. You might not want to. But then once you pull these out, you would be able to add those abilities. Not the best example in a way because there's only one of these to spend, but there's these other abilities you can use. So you get to kind of plan your cards. So it's a really interesting type of game in that sense because you're building your cards up as you go. Just kind of unusual. A lot of times you do, a type of deck builder and you end up getting new cards, but you never get to really change the cards. In this game, you're actually, in essence, changing your cards. And so in each game will be slightly different because of that, because of the way you build them and what you have access to and, what other people are adding to their hands. It's going to make it pretty unique and the replayability fairly high. So here's some more of these. And these are more of the bigger cards. So the bigger cards are a lot of times are going to have the spirit symbols, which make it easier for you to get the Vale cards at the end. So that's all these. They kind of stick together a little bit, but there's a bunch of these cards. So a whole bunch of those, whole bunch of these. The starting player cards. So I forgot to show you the backs of these. So these are color coded for each player, and I think there's 20 cards per player. Really cool designs in the back. They're cute. They're nothing like major to them, but I love the colors. So there's yellow, and then here's red and green, and then a really pretty blue. So they're very like bright and vibrant. And I'll show you like how they look together. Just like really vibrant. They each have a different little symbol. They're nothing like super fancy, but they're just, the colors are just really bright and vibrant, and it really stood out to me right away. I noticed it like right away. And then last but not least are Vale cards. So these are going to help you get VPs. These are the ones that you really need the spirit symbols most of the time to get. So hang on here, I'm getting into these. Oh yeah, player aids. So cool player aids with both sides. So taking a turn, and then also what the symbols mean. So yay for that, because each player has one of their own cards, and it's kind of like a little bit of the slightly bigger card size, and just like the rest of the deck. So really cool. So that's those. And then the two different types of Vale cards. So these are ones and these are twos. So these are like their other cards, a little bit easier to get. They look the same. They're the same design on the back, just different color. And so then you set these out, and then there's so many that are turned up. I think that's 3 cards that are turned up, so that any player can try to buy one of those cards. So as you can see, I'll go the other direction so you can see the symbols better. As you can see, you're going to need a decent amount of the spirit symbols to get some of these. Now, they're not all as big. Some of them over here are smaller, but there's only so many of each kind. And so as you get these types of cards, these are going to help you get these cards. You have to have these symbols in your hand to be able to use them to spend at the end of your game, basically, or at the end of each turn. So then at the end of each turn, you spend that. Whatever you don't spend, you lose, and you don't get to use it again until, your next turn. You develop your hand again, and you spend whatever you have. So that's pretty much everything that there is for this game. There's 2 different types of these really pretty Vale cards with the different trees in the back. There's the 4-player decks, a whole bunch of card sleeves, which is cool. These are going to go over all these, so that when you add at the end of your turn, when you've picked up cards, and you get to then slide them into the sleeve, and then they hold in place. So then you flip over the card, and eventually you try to fill up, your cards as best as you can, because that makes your hands that much stronger. So then the player aids, a bunch of VP tokens, and the starting tokens. These are also used for some other stuff too. And then the directions, and that's kind of it. Oh, and a really nice insert, yay! And the whole box is, even on the inside, is designed with artwork, so that's kind of nice. So that's pretty much everything that's in the Mystic Vale box. This is just the original game. Like I said, there are multitudes of expansions, and there's a big box and all kinds of stuff. I got a little overwhelmed by it. But basically, this is the starter game. There's lots of cards, lots of protection for your cards, and it's kind of a neat little slick game, a little bit different than everything else you've probably played, but really cool with, like, in essence, sort of like deck building, but really you're actually changing your cards all the time. So that's kind of cool. Thanks for watching Next Level Board Games.